Good morning. This is the Blainsville Podcast, where conversations are worth hearing and seeing. You can watch us each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And for more information about this show and past episodes, you can visit our website, which is behind me, blainsworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield. I'm coming to you from my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we share positive news and uplifting stories about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Sofia Costanzo, who is a writer, director, and actor, as my guest today. And Sofia, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. Give them a big wave. And I should mention that Sofia is a director, playwright, and actress originally from Asheville, North Carolina. She's currently in her final year studying acting at New York University, is the writer-director of a new play we'll be talking about called Raining on Sunday Street about Hurricane Helene. And let me start off, first of all, Sophia, what I usually do is when I meet somebody, find out a little bit about them. And so as a kid, you grew up where?
I grew up here in Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay, so actually, a person who was born and raised in Asheville. As a kid growing up in Asheville, did you always know you wanted to be a writer, playwright, director? Was that your goal as a kid?
Yes, actor I think was the big goal, and writer director is a slightly more recent. Although I did in elementary school learn everybody's lines and would tell kids where to go when they were not standing in the right place in Cinderella Junior.
Well, let me put you on the spot. Before Cinderella Junior, were you in anything else? What was the first thing you were ever in?
Actually, it was Cinderella Junior. I was town crier number three. I had one line, and in the show, a girl stole it from me, and I was super pissed after
Now, the
that.
question is, do you remember that one line?
I don't remember it. And I was probably taking a dramatic pause, I think, in the moment, and that was why it was stolen from me.
Because I have this great idea, Sophia. Nobody's picked me up on it yet, but I want everybody to recreate the very first role. In other words, and I'd like to do it at a fundraiser. I've told Stephanie at Different Strokes. I've told a lot of people. Wouldn't that be cool that, like, that Cinderella role? Do you have a video of that somewhere?
I definitely do somewhere. My mom definitely videoed it.
Okay.
It's in the archives.
And in your case, they were starting to do videos then. But wouldn't that be cool that everybody just recreate their first role? And I think it'd be a lot of fun. So you could, since I missed Cinderella, you could show it to me in there.
I love
Except
that.
then you said somebody stole your line. You didn't get to deliver it?
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody did steal my line, so I never got
The
to say
nerve.
it.
So take me from there. So that was in elementary school. Did you
Yeah.
continue acting at that point in time?
I did. Yeah, I acted all throughout elementary school, middle school, high school. I went to Asheville High School and was in heavily in the theater program there, the co-president of the Thespian Society and all that jazz. I also did Chicago, so all
And
that jazz.
Asheville High School has such a great theater program. And we'll give a shout out. Who was your teacher there?
Lori Hilliard, she's amazing, one of my just favorite mentors and theater people in general.
Okay, so quite an experience there. And
Yeah.
then you were acting at in Asheville High School Productions. Were you acting elsewhere as well?
Yeah, I was interning at Different Strokes Performing Arts Collective with Stephanie Hickling Beckmans, who you just mentioned, who's also an amazing mentor and director. And that's really I was more learning my directing style and yeah, honing that part of myself when I was interning with them.
And she's the best, in terms of to get to learn from her is fantastic. So you were then kind of learning directing. Since then, now in NYU, are you still acting and directing?
Yeah, I am. So I'm studying acting at NYU Tisch, and the first 2 years I was in the experimental theater wing, so studying acting and specifically like physical acting, Grotowski, Meisner, that kind of genre of things. And then in my third year, the first semester, I went to Playwrights Horizons Theater School, which is also through NYU, and kind of focused more on the playwriting, directing side of things. And then this past spring semester, I spent 4 months studying in Berlin and studying Stanislavski and Brecht and all other post-dramatic experimental theater acting things.
Very cool. So now you're back into the Asheville area. And the stuff you've done, now you've done a bunch of things. Do you have a preference as to acting, directing, playwriting? Do you have a preference?
That's the question, isn't it? I love them all. Honestly, I think that each of those things, I'm also a dancer and a songwriter too. So I hold many hats, and I think it's important to switch between them to not get like stale in one of them. So when I'm like, I'm not really feeling like acting anymore, I switch on my writing hat and then switch them around.
Funny, in terms of, I'll ask a lot of actors who become directors, such as yourself, what do they prefer? And many of them say directing, but they don't tell the truth, in that the real reality is they prefer directing because they don't have to memorize lines, so, you can write them or direct them, but not have to memorize lines.
That's
So
true.
kind of fast forward, then this play we're talking about, was this the first play you wrote?
No, I've written many multiple plays before. I think the first play and directed and produced actually multiple plays before in high school. So Asheville High School has a really awesome program called Quixotica through their theater program where students get to write and direct and act in each other's work. And so I did that my junior and senior year. So those were the first. So it's kind of nice now, like 3, 4 years later, coming back and being able to produce a full, I mean, those were only like 10, 20 minutes, but this is a full length show at the same theater, which is really awesome.
Okay, very cool. So talk about then this particular show. What gave you the right? I can figure out what gave you the idea, but for others, what gave you the idea to write about it?
Yeah, well, so I wasn't actually in Asheville during the hurricane. I was up in New York, um, at school, and but I got a call from my parents the day before the hurricane, and they were like, "This is crazy out here. There's all this rain, water is like 50 feet in the air, and trees are falling down." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I have to go to class," So I go to my class, I roll around on the floor, do some acting things, and then I get back on my phone and I'm like texting them, nothing, texting, nothing, calling, nothing, nothing, nothing. And then I start seeing the news flood in of, you know, I think that a lot of times people who were in it don't know how scary it was to see it from the outside because I mean, I was seeing just like the worst of the worst and just my mind was going to the worst of the worst. And so then a few days later, I finally get a call from my parents being like, we're okay, everything's good, some trees are down, the house is fine though, and this is what's happening over here. And I was really, I mean, I was really struck because this is my home, like I grew up here and this is an event that I was not here for. And I felt so helpless, like I couldn't come and help because my mom was like, well, no, like, A, you have school, and B, like we literally don't have the resources for you to come here and be here. Like there is not enough water, there's not enough food. Like you have to stay where you are. And so I was like, okay, but I still want to do something. And she was like, well, you like make art, right? Like, why don't you just kind of, I don't know, make some art, like write about it or something like that. And I was like, okay, this is what I can do. So it started with a song, actually. I wrote a song and posted that. And then I was like, I just have to keep going. I have to keep going. So I had my second year final project was like a 10-minute piece that we had to write. So I came back for winter break and I did interviews with 15, 20 different community members officially, and then so many more people I've just talked to and unofficially kind of interviewed. And from that then came this sort of the first iteration of it was a lot more like verbatim theater of just like literally taking those interviews and then performing them myself, kind of Anna Devere Smith style. And then that kind of transitioned into like, okay, let me write a story about people in the hurricane, a neighborhood in the hurricane, kind of based off of all these stories. And so I produced that 10-minute version at Asheville High. I mean, sorry, no, at NYU. And then I was like, I have to keep going. So I spent that last summer, working on a full length version. And with Different Strokes and Stephanie's help, I put on a stage reading here in Asheville, which went great. And again, made me be like, okay, I think I have to keep working on this. And so I went back to school in New York and they have a theater festival called Broke People's Play Festival. And so they picked up my show to do another kind of workshopy staged reading there with NYU students. So I workshopped it some more. And then I was like, okay, this summer, this is my summer. I want to produce it fully. I think it's time. It's been, almost 2 years since the hurricane has happened. I've worked on it a lot, and so then I got a grant from New York University, a community engaged theater grant. So they're helping me, and Asheville High School is helping me to finally do the full production here.
Now, you mentioned a song. Will the song be part of the show?
Yeah. So it's kind of told through music, and there's Melina and Josh Dillingham are two amazing Asheville musicians who I'm working with to kind of beef out the music, and they're kind of telling this story in sort of a narrational style, but with music and with all live sound elements. So like, the knocking on the doors, the knocking on the guitar, and that sort of thing, which I think is really cool. Kind of showcases my experimental background a little bit.
So is this something you see yourself eventually doing too, to writing musicals as well?
Um, yes, and I think like my idea of musical and the public's idea of like musical with jazz hands is a little different. I would consider this more a play with musical elements rather than like a musical like Chicago or something like that.
So for the benefit of folks who don't know what the show is about, and that's most people, you gave us kind of a hint, but if you can, like maybe keep it under half an hour, what's the Raining on Sunny Street all about?
So, it's about well, it takes place 2 days during the hurricane slash after the hurricane. And it's about a neighborhood, Sunny Street, and the different people in the neighborhood that have to leave their houses, evacuate their houses, and come up to the house on the top of the hill. And these people are all very different, just like Asheville, in terms of their belief systems, their ages, their sexualities. And they all kind of have to come together in this house and wait out the storm and then figure out that they're stuck in this house and then how do we get out? How do we get food? How do we get water? How do we get resources? Just like many people had to
So
in the,
it's similar to what happened in Nashville?
yeah.
Yeah. So will we see you, if we see the show, will we see somebody who was you or somebody who was your mother? Will we see people we know in this?
You will definitely see people you know. I've written it, I hope, to where everybody will recognize one of those people on stage, see themselves in one of those people, and see their neighbor in one of those people, and see their grandmother in one of those people. And um, yeah, I think it kind of is a composite of what I think a lot of people in Asheville, or a lot of people I know and have talked to.
So talk then about the writing process. So it seemed it took you a while to write this over a period of time. When you
Yeah.
write, and you said you've done some other writing, are you the kind of person who sits down at the at your computer every morning at 7 o'clock and write for 3 hours straight, or what's your writing process?
Well, um, I, I have to think even back to it because it was now a year ago that the
Sure.
first big draft was written, but I kind of did. I was pretty like consistent with it every day. I've done the Artist Way before. I don't know if you know
I do,
that book
yeah.
by Julie Cameron. And she talks about morning pages in that book. So I do morning pages almost every single day and have for the past few years. And not necessarily to write this, I just like word vomit anything, but that kind of primes the pump a little bit for like I'll do my morning pages and then I'll be like, okay, now I'm ready and let me just like boom, do it. But I think my best moments of like inspiration just kind of like I won't have anything and then I'll just like be driving and I'll be like, oh my God, that's it. And I have to like pull over and I'm just like writing on the side of the road.
I was saying, this is as you're producing this or directing this, getting it off the ground, are you also working on other projects now or other writing things?
I am, yeah, which is also interesting because the other project I'm working on is very, very different. But I'm when I go back to school in the fall, I'll be producing a show that I'm calling Insatiable, and it's a very experimental kind of, it's more like a dance, post-traumatic dance piece that takes place in the future and is yeah, is just very different than this show.
So talking to you, I'm reminded of like a Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland type thing. That here's a person just decides now, let's get the show off the ground. It's just you write this, and now talk about the process, and which is really cool. After you write it, then to get it off the ground. So you had to find a place to show it at, and then you had to find actors. Describe that process.
Yeah, well, so as I mentioned, I'm working with New York University has a community-based theater grant, and kind of they give you like a mentor and they help you with that sort of thing. So I applied for that and I got that, and so I'm working with them. And then I also just, I mean, it's been really beautiful because things have just sort of been like falling in my lap a little bit. Like, I talked to Lori Hilliard at Asheville High, and she was like, "Yeah, we'll give you the theater space. Nobody's using it here. We'll donate the theater space." And Still Point Wellness Spa is a spa that my parents own, and they have workshop spaces. So we're using that space for rehearsal space. And and then I put out a call to local actors, and I was actually abroad pretty much all summer until about a month ago. So I was doing auditions virtually from like Italy and like watching people's auditions. And I just had other mentors like Melina and Josh, and other people who have just kind of like wanted to help with the show, and we're all sort of like coming together and like, let's just make this happen. Let's just do it. So yeah.
Now, talk about the process you just described too, the virtual auditions. Have you
Yeah.
ever gone yourself through virtual auditions?
Yes, I have. And I usually really don't like them. As an actor,
Right.
I hate self-tapes, just because I feel like it takes away the excitingness of being there with somebody in the room. But when you're across the world and that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But I really found, I think, just some absolutely amazing actors who are just like super excited, super talented, and just like putting their all into this show, which is really awesome.
So how many folks auditioned for the show?
Um,
Approximately.
Auditioned, I don't even remember. I mean, it wasn't that many, honestly. But cast, there's seven, eight actually, eight actors in the show, and that's including the two musicians. And yeah, and we've had some like shifts around, but like finally it's like we've got a pretty awesome cast.
I always thought that must be one of the toughest things as a director, producer, to then choose the people you want, because especially if, and you've been on both sides, if you have to turn down people or they don't get the part, it's tough.
Yeah,
But since you
yeah.
mentioned them, seven or eight people, you mentioned the two so far, who else is in the cast?
Yeah, so Jessica Duravage is in the cast, Jason Brodsky, Ren Cash, Natalie Edgens, who's an Asheville High recent graduate, Jane Hallstrom, and a recent addition to the cast, Alexaria Chavarria, who is actually not from, everybody else is from Asheville, but she's from Connecticut and one of my good friends from NYU who's going to be coming in and doing the show.
Okay, I'm excited. The only one I really know is Jane, so I'm really excited. She's going to be in the show. Very, very talented actor as well. And so you've been in now rehearsals for how long for the show?
For this is our fourth week.
Okay, and people don't necessarily appreciate it, but the rehearsal process is how long? Do you meet a couple times a week, or days or nights? How long does it involve?
Yeah, we the first 2 weeks we met 3 nights a week, and it was actually pretty, we were supposed to meet 4 nights a week, but then we had that's like heavy rains and like flooding kind of thing happen, and then there was that sort of like kind of tornado thing that happened, so we had to cancel rehearsal a few times, which was pretty ironic given the content of the show. Um, but yeah, rehearsals have been 6:30 to 9:30 the past 2 weeks, every single day of the week at night. So it's an intensive rehearsal process. 4 weeks is not a long time.
And people don't realize that, how much time and effort is into it. For a show, you were telling me that's only going to be shown initially twice. Is that correct?
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
people want to see the show, where and when?
So it'll be on August 21st and 22nd, which is a week from today, which is August 14th today, at Asheville High School Arts Theater at 6 p.m.
Okay. And if folks want to get tickets, how do they do that?
Yeah, I have an Eventbrite, so you can just Google Raining on Sunny Street Eventbrite or Raining on Sunny Street Asheville, and it should pop right up. And yeah, there's a sliding scale for tickets. And yeah. Oh, also Instagram, if you want to look up the Instagram, it's at Raining on Sunny Street, street spelled ST. And then my personal Instagram is at Sofifi_1.
So if people want to see this, who would you say should see this? Who's it directed at?
I mean, I think everybody in Asheville
A
or the
lot of
surrounding
people.
areas. I mean, I think that my real hope with this show is that people who have been through the hurricane can see it, see themselves on stage, see their experience mirrored back to them, remember what happened, but more than that, remember the community that was created. I think like we're in a time now, almost 2 years past the hurricane, where people are starting to, I mean, as they should, as we all have to move on with their lives. But I think that something big happened to our community, and it's important for people to remember.
Any age limit, young, old, or what would sort of be the
Um,
range?
the only I would say content warnings of the show is there is a prop shotgun on stage that never gets fired. That's important to mention. And there's some harsh language, and there's loud thunderstorm sounds. So I would say maybe about 10, but if your kid is 9 and really wants to come see it, then
It
bring
sounds.
your 9-year-old.
So talk about then after the show has its first public showing next weekend, where do you see it going from there? Do you see it, you're going to try to sell it to other people or get other people to produce it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the hope. I think that this is, although it is about Asheville, it's a story that is becoming increasingly, you know, in other places, natural disasters are happening more and more. And so I think that it's important right now to highlight that and highlight not only that, but like the community. I think that like also just as a country and as a world, it just feels very divided right now. And I think that this show is highlights the bringing together of people. And so I really hope that other theater companies want to produce this show. That's kind of like the next step, maybe producing it in New York in the near future.
Well, it sounds like as a writer, actor, director, producer, all these different kinds of things, you have your hands full because there's so many different things you have to do. It'd be one thing you just wrote it, but to do all of them at once, it's time consuming, I imagine.
Yes, definitely is. Definitely is.
So talk about then after you graduate college, if I can ask you, where do you see yourself, say, in 10 years from now?
That's the golden question, isn't it? I I want to start a theater company. First of all, I think that my sort of magnum opus goal in 10, 15, maybe 20 years, I'm really interested in the sort of intersection between Gestalt therapy and just kind of like healing practices in general and theater. And so I want to create a theater company or more of like an organization that kind of combines those things and create work out of people's experiences, kind of what I'm testing out, experimenting with this show actually. So that's what I kind of see my life's goal, my life's work as, and intermingle acting, intermingle, going abroad back to Berlin and doing some shows there and staying in New York and maybe California. We'll see.
Okay, and then you mentioned also, so you write music as well?
Yeah, I do.
And so if people want to track you down, you mentioned it, best way to find out about you is how?
Yeah, I would say my Instagram, so Fifi_1. spelled with an F. Website is coming soon, which will then be on my Instagram, and music release hopefully also coming soon. So, keep on me in the next few years, and I'm gonna start letting things out.
So on the music, is that on YouTube anywhere? Anything available?
I have a few things on my Instagram, but nothing's quite available yet. I got to get into a recording studio for sure.
And it's funny because I'm now into Instagram more and more, but the problem thing that drives me crazy about Instagram though, it's very hard to find people. So even you as an example, it, unless you know what to look for, I don't understand why people don't use their names. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
if you look you up, you can't find you, but if you know the name that you mentioned, you can find you. So I just thought that's a little strange that people, not you, but Instagram doesn't make that available. Tell you more about the person.
I
Um,
know. Yeah.
but you've given
Get
the
up with,
impression if
who is
people
it,
want
Mark Zuckerberg?
right. If people want to track you down, they can. So anyway,
Yeah,
very exciting stuff. Lots of luck with it. I hope to be there. You mentioned next weekend.
yeah,
It is, and then after that, back to school.
yep, pretty much. Yeah, yeah. I'll also mention if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, my email is sofiamcostanzo@gmail.com. So
So
if
they can find you by
they can find me
directly.
by email too. If Instagram is too hard.
Okay. Well, anyway, very exciting stuff. Like I said, I have it down now. I'm going to try to get there next weekend, and I look
Awesome.
forward to seeing you and meeting you someday in person. That'd be great. So,
Thank you so much.
thank you for joining me on this edition of Blaine's World podcast. I also like to thank my producer Kim Jones, and let's have an amazing run of two nights, right? Next
Yeah,
weekend. That'd be
yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for joining me.